Eric, thank you so much for joining me today on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast. Really, really excited to finally get you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's we connected a little while back, and it's I'm looking forward to it.
Everyone, I'm sure, is aware of your work. Like, you do an unbelievable job, and we'll come to that, and we'll talk about the social media content and some of the work you've done there. But I think tactical analysis, just my opinion, is that it's gone really mainstream in a positive direction in recent years. And Monday Night Football now, my whole timeline is just full of tactical analysis stuff. It's brilliant. It's really associated with the professional level. And sometimes I think we can get away from what it can bring to the youth side of the game. In your work and in your philosophy and your just general views of the game at the youth level as well, how important is that tactical analysis piece of youth development?
I think first and foremost, it maybe depends on the level you're at. There's from grassroots to academy, so maybe you want to be a little thoughtful in your process there. I personally am working in an academy, so maybe a different type of players than other people are working with. But at the same time, I think it can be useful at all levels. I think a working definition a lot of people would use. And tactical analysis or analysis in general is maybe to focus on the past to affect the future. How can we enhance the players' learning, their understanding of tactics, their understanding of decision making and stuff like that. So I also, a lot depends on how you're going to use it as well. I personally, and I think a lot of people I've spoken with in the past, prefer, reinforcing the positive instead of bringing up the negative. Of course, there's a time and place for both, but I personally prefer, bringing up the positive stuff and trying to reinforce that. And like I said, depending on the level of the youth you're working with, a lot of these players are, they're trying to become professionals. That's their end goal. And if they're going to make it that far, then it's probably good for them to have worked with analysis before and not just turn 18, 19, 20, whatever, and then all of a sudden they're playing in the professional league of whatever country they're in, wherever they're playing, or maybe they're joining a college and the college is quite good at analysis, and they're already going to have to adopt quite a bit. If they're used to the analysis and they've done that before, maybe it'll be a bit easier for them in that way. I also think, though, as far as youth compared to the senior side, you have to be a bit careful between the balance in the team versus the individual. How far you want to go to one side leaning maybe to the other. That is perhaps maybe more down to the club that you're working at, their philosophies and how they want it to be done. But depending on the age as well, maybe the younger they are, the more individualized it is, and as they maybe take the step up, getting closer to the senior side and the reserves, it could be a bit more geared towards the team side and the tactical stuff instead of the individual actions.
Yeah, I love that piece there, using the past to influence the future. I heard that before. Sometimes that there has improved us, or almost like shown us a little bit of humility as a coach, where sometimes we get this opinion of the game, right? But then when you look back at it, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of coaches experiences matches the same way. You're there and you see something, or you think you see something, and then it's impossible to take in everything. So maybe even the opposite of what you said. Maybe you think somebody had a poor match, and then you go back and watch, and okay, they did actually quite a few good things there that we didn't see. Maybe it was on the far side, or maybe we're looking at something else off the ball, and so there's definitely like you said, it's important to go back and look at everything over again.
Was tactical analysis, obviously saying that it's become mainstream and it's pretty cool probably in the last few years, but you've moved into that side quite heavy. Is it always something that's fascinated you? Is it a side of the game that you've naturally moved towards?
I would say it's becoming more and more interesting for me. Having growing up in the United States, I never played in the club soccer that they have now and stuff like that. So I guess I never really had too many coaches that went too deep into the tactical side. It could be different, for a lot of kids now, but I didn't really have a lot of tactical knowledge by the time I started coaching. And then once you start coaching and you start just trying to improve yourself, then that's one way to go and one thing to look at. And like you said, it's starting to become more and more influential, and you see it more and more on social media and stuff like that. And I think that also has had a huge impact on me personally in the way, everybody's going to be different interests and drawn to different things, but all the stuff that we've, seen, all the websites with their tactical analysis and stuff like that is, I've been interested in that. And I think it's just a combination of interest and, what's out there and always trying to learn more.
When a club has a structure, and you mentioned before about it depends what the aim of the club or the level of the club's at, the analysis. So let's just say the goal of the club is to produce elite/professional players. And let's just say they have the facilities / the budgets to put analysis into both staffing and equipment and all that good stuff. How would you advise a club, or where do you think in the weekly processes analysis kind of fits in towards training and match preparations towards that age group of like 14 through maybe 17, 18?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different ways to go around about this, and I try to connect with other analysts at other clubs as much as I can, whether it's maybe we're playing against a team and I know the analysts on the other team, or like you said, social media and Twitter and stuff like that. It's a lot of helpful people out there who are willing to share. So I would say again, going back to the other question, finding the balance between individual and the team, depending on the level, depending on the age. I think that's going to be different for everybody, but finding that balance is really important. I also think, like you said, if you're at that level where you're trying to develop the players to make it to the top, a lot of clubs probably have in place, some sort of a game model or a club philosophy, and I think it's probably pretty important to try to tie the analysis up with that. As far as if you're working on different phases of the game, how that should look within your club's philosophy, within your club's game model. If your team, if different KPIs for each match, or it's the same for individual. If they, if you're working with individual development plans for your players, try to tie the analysis up with that. So on a week to week basis, it's just. I think you kind of have to feel what, there's really no blueprint to going about it. And I think as soon as you try to set a blueprint for that, then that's maybe where you get in trouble. You always have to be ready to adjust and ready to try something different. I also think at that level, perhaps it's, this is also going to be different from club to club, but I would personally say that, the analysis of your own team and players is way more important than doing an opposition analysis. At that age and that level, we're trying to develop the players, and of course, maybe there's always, again, a time and place for looking at the opposition, but we're trying to probably implement our own style and develop the players in the way we want them to play, and that's done by focusing more on ourselves instead of the opposition. And, there's also, if we're going week to week, if you have a little extra in between matches, or if you have, depending on if you're a coach or an analyst full time, or maybe both, it's always nice to maybe take some analysis of training as well. If you have that possibility to get some of the training sessions filmed, particularly on maybe a day that you're going to play big sided matches or something like that. So. There's lots of different ways I would say you could structure the weekly thing, and it's just there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever works best for you and your club, and always trying to find something new there.
So last week, I'm sure you saw the De Bruyne contract negotiations where he brought in the data analyst. I think I done a webinar a while ago on, and I started it with just interviews of players and how I believe players are talking about the game in a different way than what they were 10 years ago, and how we must then shift environments towards giving them that maybe at a younger age and growing that there, almost like education. Do you think that the top tier player today who's operating at, the professional standard, do you think that they need to have that, understanding of tactical analysis in their game, and that is that going to be developed, I suppose, in the same way technique or strength is developed?
I think I definitely think if they want to make it to the top, like we've said, it's probably going to be important for them, because once they get, most likely to the professional level, it's going to be more demanded of them, and they're gonna need to be prepared for that. But at the same time, people and players, young players, everybody learns in a different way, and I've experienced personally before, some really top players who aren't particularly interested in, maybe particularly interested in the analysis side, but they can do it in different ways, more maybe just discussions in in a player meeting, and they don't always have to show them stuff, but other players, top good players, they soak it up, and they seem to know a lot more. And I've experienced before where I'm sitting down with a player, and you ask them a question maybe, and they give an answer, and it's just something like, yeah, I didn't see that myself, but yeah, I think you're probably right there. There's the players are definitely taking steps in the tactical side, I would say.
Dan Abrams tweeted that coaches need to have a plan for player engagement as much as you do learning and performance. I think it's huge that when it comes to analysis and data, that coaches today have to present it in a way that players will want to receive it, consume it, look for more of it. What are some ways that you think a coach could build some level of engagement rather than sitting a player down and then you probably did what I did, a coach sitting and making you watch the whole game again when you were younger? How can coaches get presenting a little bit more of an enjoyable way?
This is maybe one of the things that I try to have the most focus on in my daily work. I've hopefully by now, when I'm looking back at the matches and analyzing them, I can see, hopefully I hope that I'm finding this stuff, and that's not the problem there. The problem is how are we gonna share this with the players, and how are we gonna make them understand this? So that's there's just continuous development there, and how we can present this, how we can improve the presentation, and how maybe not necessarily even improve it, but just change it, because I don't think there is a best way to present. Just depend, every player's gonna, there could be a player who wants to sit down and watch the whole match and they would want to talk to you for the whole entire time, but there could be another one who only needs to see 2 to 3 clips and then maybe they're done. So it's just a continuous change in how you're going to present it, variation in the presentation, like I said, just maybe sometimes it's necessary to use, the illustration tools and draw some arrows here and there, use some stops and stuff. And sometimes maybe just, let the clip run and let the players see it without, stopping every 5 seconds. The length, I think most coaches try to be cautious of, how long they're going to have, if they're going to have a video meeting, how, try not to let it run too long. Like, don't always just sit there and tell them what you see, but, let them ask questions, and, they're on the field. They're the ones who, they probably see a lot of stuff and know things that we don't know what's going on. Let them explain what they see and what they think. So I think, there's definitely a lot of ways to to improve the way that they can receive it and consume it. But I think that's, like I said, that's something that I personally am always trying to work on and try to find new ways there. Also, if you're just gonna, even if you think you find the best way and you continue with that, then that's going to be boring after 2-3 months.
Yeah, the more access you have with the players, the more challenging that is. Yeah, for sure. Do you think it can be quite challenging for an analyst to try, and maybe an issue with coaches today, trying to get a bit more engagement, especially when it comes to the data side of it and the numbers side of it? How do you think an analyst can, I suppose, if they're coming from if it's a former player and maybe you're coming from a different background and it's more of an academic background from the analyst and looking at the game a different way, what are some ways that an analyst can build that relationship or even that credibility with a coach who maybe doesn't see the game through those eyes?
I personally don't work too much with the data side, but I do know there's quite a bit of resistance, perhaps maybe at some levels in interpreting data and how that's going to be used. At the same time, I also am working as an analyst and a coach, so I guess it's a bit easier to make that connection there. But of course, to have that connection with the coach, if you are working just as an analyst, it's maybe just as simple as building that relationship and the trust with the coach. I can say probably when I started working as an analyst, if I was gonna show a coach, that maybe they were working on their build up that week and they wanted to find some clips of the build up to show after, then I maybe thought it was necessary to find 10 clips just to say, okay, I'm seeing this, and finding the same thing 10 times in a row. So just to try to prove your point. But obviously they don't want to show the team the same clip 10 times over, same variation of the same clip. So I think building that trust, when this is what I see, showing them 1 to 2 clips and they trust, that, okay, that's what's happening. That's what we need to continue with, or that's what we need to change. So I think, just like I said, that trust with the coach is quite important there. And, making sure you're both working off the same understanding. Maybe you don't see the game the exact same way as them, but try to see it from their point of view and what they're looking for and whether you agree or not, what they want out of that.
Focus, concentration levels. You hear a lot of coaches today probably complain that the players don't have as much today. Like you mentioned there about the timing that you have for meetings. Well, they can't retain as much information, or their focus levels aren't as strong. Do you think coaches have perhaps gone in the same direction with the way social media information consumes today? Do you think coaches are in danger of maybe not stepping deep enough inside understanding and detailed information and getting absorbed in that?
I think everything that we see on social media for the most part is shared, with the best interest and the development, and everybody's just trying to share their knowledge and their love of the game in this. So I think I would want to maybe be a bit careful to say that would be hurting anything, because that I think it's, like I said, it's all done with trying to help and increase knowledge. So but then again, some of the stuff that you might see, it looks and it sounds good, but then if you have to look at it a bit more, maybe a bit more critical, and compare it to your own way that you're seeing things, and not just take everything that you read, everything that you see for granted. And that is right. If you break it down a bit more, does it really make sense what you're seeing? Does it, if you're seeing, for example, there's a lot of training sessions, sharing, and that's great. I get a lot of ideas personally from shared sessions and stuff, but I maybe take some critical questions and think to yourself, what if you're looking at somebody wants to make the somebody wants to make the pitch a different shape, ask yourself why. Is that necessary? And maybe it is, maybe it's not, but see why they're doing that if it's not explained, and come like it should be all, whatever you see on there, it should all be adapted to your own personal philosophy or your club's philosophy, not just take it for what you see. But I definitely, like I said, I wouldn't want to be too critical of that that side of the game that's increasing, because I think it's quite useful, and that you can get a lot of, there's a lot of coaches who have said in the past, and personally, most stuff is just stolen, ideas and thoughts are just, you're not just going to reinvent everything. So it's good to get those ideas and new just refresh.
Yeah, no, I would never, and obviously it would be pretty hypocritical of me to have a quote anyone who's been posting anything on social media. The people and I appreciate people like yourselves that post, for you to, I suppose, take that information, an abundance of information, shrink it, make it smaller, dress it up, whatever it is, and then present it a different way and get engagement. There's a skill in that there. The piece that intrigues me is actually not from the people that are putting it out, because I honestly believe that for every bite-sized information you put out, you're probably putting about 30, 45 minutes. The depth is there. The skill is there in condensing that. What intrigues me is that for the coaches sitting watching that, are we actually spending less time watching the game? When by constantly watching the highlights on social media and our streams, are we actually, I don't know, conditioning ourselves to see a different, to see the game a bit more superficially? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I know what you're talking about. I personally, it doesn't always work out, but depending on the game and depending on what I want to get out of the game, that I'm watching, I would say a lot of times I'll just try to set my phone to the side and not look at it, and of course that depends on the game and what else is going on in my house or wherever I'm at that time. So it doesn't always work out, but sometimes if I know I'm going to have that 2 hours free, peaceful and free, then I will try to set the phone aside and maybe take some notes or whatever I'm trying to get out of the game there. So I do know what you mean, and I think everybody's going to watch the game differently. So it's just up to you how you want to watch it, I guess. But I know what you mean.
For you to watch a game, and obviously you watch it at a high level in terms of the detail. For you to sit down, I mean, it's a pretty general question, right? How does an analyst get better at what they do? Like, a large part of it, I would imagine, is to train your eye to watch as many games as possible. Is that something that you've refined over a period? Like, do you watch a game at high speed? Do you slow it down? Again, do you put the photo? How do you watch a football match?
That again depends on the match. If I'm gonna watch a game, for example, Manchester United game, then maybe I end up get caught ball watching quite a bit, and just sitting trying to enjoy the game and not too much tactically involved there. At the same time, like if I'm going to watch back one of my own team's games, then there could be a lot of stops and starts and pauses, and probably watching it 2 times over, 3 times depending on the match. It just depends on the game and the circumstances around me at the time when I'm watching it.
If you had a group of young analysts who are 20, 22 years of age and saying, all right, listen, step one, would you, I mean, now we're in this remote world, would you give them, would you set a number of, is it quantity over quality to a certain extent, or is it you're looking at certain things? I guess I'm trying to ask you what you feel would be the starting point. Would the starting point get you watch as many games as you can, or would it be to start looking at the game in a certain type of way?
I think I get this question sometimes, and it's difficult to answer. I think just like anything in life, probably you're gonna get out what you put into it. if you want to be better at analyzing matches, there's no end in learning there. There's always going to be something new to learn. There's always going to be something new to see. There's endless amounts of websites and webinars and courses you can take that can improve your knowledge. And like you said, the more matches you watch, the more focus you have while you're watching a match. If you want to watch a match and maybe take notes when you're watching, maybe even oftentimes I will watch a match the next day that maybe I didn't watch it the day before, but then I have access to it when it's recorded. So then if I wanted to understand some more tactical concepts from what happened, then it's easier to just like it was my own team or something like that, just sit down, having that ability to stop and pause it and rewind and see things over again. So there's lots of different ways to improve your knowledge and understanding. Like I said, it's never ending really. So you just have to, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it.
Has merging your analysis with coaching, has that been a big help for you to almost decipher between what's useful, what's not, and get a better understanding as to what you can transfer? Has that helped you become a better analyst? Has analysis helped you become a better coach?
It's definitely for me personally a good benefit to have both sides. I think I've definitely seen in the past different analysis or different ideas, and then you think as a coach, maybe that's maybe not going to work actually in a match, or maybe they're not taking into consideration the type of players or that they have at each position. If somebody's going to watch back a professional match and give their analysis of the match, yet we don't know personally how these players are in training or what they're working on or exactly why they're doing that.
Hi coaches, thank you for watching this webinar and for supporting all the work at MSC. A huge thanks to Wildcard for teaming up with us for this podcast. Please, before the interview continues, please just check out their product. Unbelievable. I've seen it myself and really, really recommend that coaches at all levels check it out. They have a promotion event for April where they're giving the product away for absolutely free. So please check it out. Here is some more information, and then we will get back to the interview in less than a minute. Thank you.
As youth coaches, we understand the grunt work that needs to get done. Scheduling, payments, reminders, communication. And then there's the work that we love. Engaging with our teams, coaching them through the wins and losses, being out there with them on the field, and creating community. To do this, we either use several different tools like WhatsApp, or we pay for something like TeamSnap, but neither feels like it really works. So we created a new app to improve this experience for everyone, make it easier to get the grunt work done, and using technology in new ways to better engage our athletes and teams. We call it Wildkard. Here's how it works. You create a single space for your team where you can chat, share, train, and schedule. All of your controls are in one place. Get your team spirit going and upload that team logo. Add multiple managers if that's how you work. Scheduling and repeating practice takes about 5 seconds. You can RSVP in-app or via SMS. Add to your calendar, and you get to see who's in. It's that easy. Athletes love their stats. So for each game, you get rich details. What the score was, nifty game stats, but that's not all. As coaches, we want our athletes to remain engaged. So each athlete gets their own cool sports profile, and they can compete with each other to make it more fun. Community is such an important part of sports. Share your sports culture, cool tricks, tips, and all of your memorable moments, because community inspires. That's a little bit about how Wildcard works, and more features are available each month. It's really a platform designed to take the grunt work away and help us engage better with our athletes. Wildcard is still in its early stages, so you can download the app for free. It only takes a few minutes to set up, and we're here to help. So head on over to wildcard.io and give us a spin.
When we're looking at coaches today, again, that are preparing to be out, it's a bit of competitive business, analyst, analytics. Do you think people who are a bit more closer to the grass that can see that understanding and see where it emerges, is that going to separate, I suppose, an analyst in their career path or help them?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, if you're gonna be out on the grass and you're gonna be with the players, sometimes when you're coaching, a lot of times you are analyzing while it's going. So maybe in a training session, for example, you have a stop in the play in between matches or in between, whatever you're doing that day. And it's important to, a lot of coaches know it's important to listen to the players, how they're feeling, how they're seeing things, what they're interpreting. So, and maybe if you're just working as an analyst, you don't have that picture of the players. A lot of analysts, maybe I personally have never played at a high level either. So it's fantastic to hear what the players say and how they're interpreting situations and what they're looking at and what they're seeing. So tying the analysis up with the coaching is, for me personally, definitely been a big help for both sides, both parts.
Wanted to get your thoughts on this. Something that has been a social media topic. It's came up a few times, and I've always been interested in following it. Has been coaches that are in the analysis community that are sometimes encouraged or discouraged from sharing free information. When you're building your name, you should always, you should get your worth. But then you see people like yourself who give a lot of content out, very, very regularly, spend a lot of time doing it, build a good reputation around it, and build good networks around it as well. What's your advice to a young analyst who's looking at, should I charge for this? Should I do work for free? How should I plan around that? How should I maneuver around that space?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it depending on your personal situation. Like for me personally, I'm working as a coach and analyst, so it doesn't a problem for me to share stuff for free online. I guess the reason I would do it is just for my own personal improvement. A lot of times the stuff that I might share is just something that I'm working on, something that anything that you share or anything that you create, you have for the future as well. So whether you can implement that at your own club or just improve your own knowledge, that's one way to look at it, I guess. Like you said, it can improve. The more stuff that you might be sharing, you can get in touch with some interesting people, or maybe somebody might contact you and share something back with you, and so there's definitely a lot of different ways to go about it. So that's a difficult question. It depends. There's a lot of stuff it depends on.
US coach working abroad in Europe at a professional club. Again, we talked before we start recording. It's a unique pathway, and not a lot of US coaches have done that there. What are some areas that you feel that moving to Europe has challenged you to develop or improve in your time over there?
I would probably say first and foremost is just the understand the tactical insight, the understanding of the game. But at the same time, that's also going to come with experience. So most of my most of my career has been spent in Europe. Maybe if I had spent the first 10 years coaching in the United States, that same tactical, understanding might have been developed as well. But I've definitely would say, the younger players, like I said, I haven't spent a lot of time working with young players in the United States, so it could be the same there and I don't know this, but the players who, they grow up playing only one sport, and that is football, soccer. They don't spend any time training or watching anything else. So for me personally, that part is definitely something that I have developed here. Maybe another one of the bigger things I would say is putting yourself into some uncomfortable situations. When I first started doing some coaching here, it was mostly with younger players, maybe some under 8s, under 9s, and under 10s. So at that point, it was necessary to speak the language, to speak Norwegian, and at the same time, I wasn't extremely good. So just with anything, putting yourself into an uncomfortable situation is most of the time going to turn out good and improve you, develop you. So I would say those two things maybe has developed me most as a coach since moving here.
How long did it take you to get a hold of the language, to be really confident in it?
It's still not quite there yet, I guess. I don't think I'll ever be 100% confident in it, but all of my coaching, all of my communication with players is done in Norwegian right now, so it's not a problem anymore.
Any areas specifically in Norwegian football that you think would transfer positively to the US soccer landscape? Like if you could take one thing from the football landscape in Norway and say, if we could do more of that in the US, I think it would really kick on either teams or players or coaches.
Like I said, I haven't spent too much time working in the United States as a coach in that environment, so it's a bit difficult to compare. But again, this is maybe a sensitive topic for a lot of people. But I think that value of all the clubs in Norway, they have it's a club from under 5 to the first team, and I really think that's positive is for the players to have that when they're joining us, the club that they start at when they're from the time they're 5 until they're up to 18, 19. They're always wanting to play for the first team, whether that's a grassroots club or a team in the top division, second division. They have something to aim for, something to, a team to go and watch, a team to grow up supporting. So it's just something different with the cultures that I really, really found positive here.
I'm sure a lot of US coaches reach out to you on a regular basis just for advice and stuff like that. What advice do you have for young coaches who are keen or have that ambition to work in around the world or in Europe specifically?
Like you said, we spoke a bit before we came on, and maybe my circumstances aren't the same for all American coaches. I don't know if I would have been in the situation I'm in right now if it wasn't for family reasons. So if you have that desire and you have that and you want to get out there, then there's nothing wrong with trying to get that experience around the world, trying to get that experience in Europe. Maybe it's not always so easy to come by, but it's hard to give any particular advice. But if that's something that they're interested in, something you want to pursue, I would definitely try to go for that. It's every situation is going to be unique. So
you still follow the American game then? You still keep an eye on things over here?
Oh yeah, definitely. Every staying up late in the middle of the night to watch the national team is a typical for me.
All right, brilliant. Our last couple for you. You give so much in terms of like your information, a lot of thought-provoking stuff on social media. Where do you go for your own sources of information, inspiration? What do you read? What do you watch?
There's, again, this is a question. Maybe there's endless amounts of answers. There's podcasts. There's websites. There's a lot of, particularly under the circumstances where now there's a lot of great webinars. Yeah, there's Twitter is a fantastic resource. I also personally try to take as many courses as I can, whether that's through the federation or through something, an online module or something like that. Just always trying to find a new course like that. It's just whatever you can find with that information is just to soak it up and look for more.
Yeah, what have you taken over the lockdown then? Anything that jumps out at you that was a really good experience?
Yeah, I took, there was a few, I watched a lot of the webinars that you provided. There's a lot of good stuff on the Coach's Voice, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
Took a few different courses. I don't know if you've heard of the Barca Innovation Hub.
Yes, I saw that there. How was that?
Yeah, there's some good stuff there. The tactical analysis course, and I think when you take courses like this, the United Soccer Coaches has a nice performance analysis course as well. But when you take courses like this, it's important to keep your don't have too high of expectation. Nothing against the courses, but they're not going to revolutionize the whole entire way you see the game. You have to. It's always just to take a little bit from everything that you do and try to implement that into your own daily work, your own philosophy. Nothing is going to be extremely new the whole time you're listening to it, most likely. So it's just take whatever you can get from everything you do.
Last one for you. You mentioned about watching a game. Maybe you're watching it for fun, and then obviously as an analyst, you're watching games for work. Is there a team, or what team do you watch for a bit of both? What team do you watch, is it with an analyst eye that you really, really enjoy? What are the top 2 or 3 teams that you never miss?
I haven't missed many Manchester United games in the last, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, it's for a bit of fun, but then you get, you get your own ideas and your own analysis going there as well. So, and like I said before, every U.S. The men's national team games, there's, maybe I don't watch it live, but I'll be for sure to watch it the next day recorded if I missed it live that day.
Eric, top class. On behalf of, I know, all the coaches in the community, we really appreciate your work and your commitment to getting great stuff out there. So thanks for that. Thanks also for coming on the podcast. We'll definitely keep in touch with you and really enjoy following your journey.
I can say the same for you. It's I've been following your stuff for a long time, so it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.